Episode 9, 1955. Emmett didn't come home. The truth of that night, buried in a boy's silence. I still see the gravel where we stood. Every time I close my eyes. It's there. The dust. The tin roof of the store. The sun too bright. The flies buzzing like warnings we couldn't hear. The porch steps creaked under our weight. Two boys, just looking for candy. Maybe a soda. Maybe something to break the heat. Emmett joked about the signs on the door. Whites only. Don't touch. He made them sound silly. Like rules in a schoolyard game. I laughed. But quiet. Because I knew where we were. And I knew who was watching. Emmett didn't flinch. He had that Chicago smile. Big. Unapologetic. Like he belonged anywhere he walked. I told him, "This ain't home." He shrugged. "Doesn't have to be," he said, then walked in. The bell above the door rang like a warning shot. He was inside for less than a minute, but it felt like an hour. When he came out, he was still smiling, but the woman at the register, she wasn't. She followed him with her eyes, like he'd stolen something, like his grin was a crime. I remember the way she wiped her hands on her apron. Slow, deliberate, like washing off something she didn't want to name. That night at the house, we played cards. Emmett laughed too loud. We all did, because no one wanted to talk about it. About her. About the look she gave. About the way the air changed. Then came the truck. It rumbled down the dirt road like thunder with no rain. The headlights cut through the dark like blades. I watched from the window. They didn't knock. They banged. Her husband. Another man. Both red-faced, breathing like bulls. "Where's the boy from Chicago?" They didn't ask. They demanded. Emmett stood up. I'll never forget that. He didn't hide. Didn't cry. Just stood there. Like someone who didn't know fear yet. His uncle begged. "Ain't no trouble. He's just a child." But they didn't care. They grabbed him. Rough. Fast. Like garbage they were taking out. I opened my mouth. But nothing came. I could have said his name. I could have said, "Stop." But all I did was stare at the floor. They dragged him outside. The screen door slammed shut behind them. And then, silence. No shouting. No gunshots. Just crickets. And a silence I've carried for 70 years. We waited. All night. Till the sky turned purple. Till the roosters crowed. Till even the flies stopped buzzing. He didn't come back. The sun came up like it always did. But the light felt wrong. Too yellow. Too loud. Birds chirped. Dogs barked. Somewhere a rooster crowed. But none of it felt alive. The kitchen smelled like coffee and dread. Mama poured it with hands that shook. I pretended not to notice. She pretended I wasn't pretending. Nobody said his name. Not once. Not at breakfast. Not at church. Not when someone knocked at the door. But we were all thinking it. Where is Emmett? What did they do to him? Why didn't anyone stop them? I knew the answers, but I locked them up. Tight. Buried behind my ribs. Because if I spoke, I'd fall apart. And no one was allowed to fall apart. His uncle walked to the sheriff's office. In the same clothes he wore the night it happened. Dust still on his boots. Sleep still in his eyes. He told them. Said their names. Told them what they did. The sheriff leaned back in his chair. Squinted at the heat. Said, "You sure now?" Said, "Boys lie sometimes." Said, "Can't go making accusations." He never wrote it down. Just chewed his toothpick like it was the truth. We went home. No help coming. No search party. No questions asked. Just silence. So loud it rang in my ears. Each night after, I dreamed of headlights, of gravel crunching under boots, of Emmett's face lit by a flashlight. Calm, confused, too brave. I'd wake up with his name in my throat, but I never said it. Not even once. Because if I said his name, I'd have to say mine too, and admit I did nothing. Some kids at school asked, "Where's your friend?" I shrugged. Said he went back north. Said he was fine. I was a liar. And a coward. And I hated myself for both. His mama came down from Chicago. Wore black. Held her head like a sword. She didn't cry in public. But she didn't blink either. I heard her say, "If they did this in the dark, then I'll drag it into the light." And she did. The box they sent her wasn't a coffin. It was a war drum. And when she opened it, when she showed the world, the whole country gasped. Some turned away. Some said, "It's too much." But it wasn't enough. Not for what they did. The photograph burned itself into me. I didn't want to see it. But I had to. Because looking away was what let it happen. And I had looked away. I told myself I was just a kid. That I couldn't stop grown men. That I didn't know. But I knew. I saw the hate in their eyes. I heard the fear in Emmett's breath. I felt the weight of every second I stayed silent. The church bells rang the day they buried him. But I didn't go. I couldn't. I stood in the field, watched the clouds, listened to the wind, and wished it could carry me back to before the store, before the laugh, before the smile. But the wind doesn't move backwards, and neither does time. So I stood still and cried for the first time, not just for Emmett, but for myself, for the boy who saw and said nothing, for the boy who stayed quiet while history screamed. Years passed, decades even, but that night never left me. I grew taller, got a job, got old, but I never got away. I got married once, had 2 boys. I never told them about Emmett. Not really. Not the whole truth. Just the parts that sounded distant, clean, historical. Because how do you tell your sons that their father was a coward? How do you say, "I watched it happen. I didn't scream. I didn't run." So I kept it quiet, like a stone I swallowed. It never dissolved. It just sat there, heavy, sharp around the edges. Sometimes I'd see his name in a book, a headline, a school paper. Emmett Till, catalyst for the civil rights movement. They always called him a spark, but they never said how cold the room was before he burned. They didn't know about the porch, the candy, the way he smiled at danger, because he didn't believe it could be real. They didn't know that somewhere, another boy, me, stood frozen like a shadow, watching, breathing, doing nothing. I tried to forget, tried to fill my life with noise, radio, church, chores, anything to drown out the silence. But nothing worked. Every silence sounded like that night. Every truck backfiring sounded like boots on gravel. Every boy laughing too loud made my stomach turn. I never stepped foot in that store again. It's gone now. Burned or boarded up. I don't remember. But I remember the bell over the door. The way it rang. Like it knew what was coming. I go to the cemetery sometimes. Stand near the grave. Not too close. I don't deserve close. People leave flowers, letters, photos of their children. I never leave anything. I just stand there, hands in my pockets, and whisper, "I'm sorry." Not because it changes anything, but because I never said it when it mattered. Some nights, I still dream of him, but not as he was. Not Emmett with the candy and the jokes. Not the grin too wide for the South. I see him as he might have been, older than me now, taller, tired, carrying the world he never got to grow into. In the dream, he always turns to me and asks, "Why didn't you say something?" I wake up gasping. Every time. Every damn time. There are people now. Scholars, writers, even children in schools, who say his name with reverence. They wear t-shirts, make murals, #justice, and I'm grateful. But I wonder if they know what silence costs, if they know how heavy it is to carry a truth. You were too scared to say. I never went on marches, never gave speeches, never held a sign, but I held that night. For 70 years, I held it. I watched the world change. Lunch counters, bus seats, voting booths, all those little battles that came after the body in the river. And still, I never spoke his name out loud. Until now. Because I'm tired. And my bones are thin. And I know I don't have many mornings left. So this is what I can give. I was there. I saw it. I stayed quiet. And I was wrong. Emmett Till didn't die in vain. But he died alone. Because the people around him chose silence, chose fear, chose safety. And that silence has a body count. If you remember anything from this story, let it be this. Silence is a choice, and it always sides with power. So speak, even if your voice shakes, even if the world doesn't listen, even if you're the only one. Speak, because the night they took Emmett, I didn't, and I've carried it every day since.